If you set up an account at socialsecurity.gov, which I highly recommend you and anyone 18 or older does, so you can track your Social Security earnings, make sure there's no errors, and see the estimates of how much you would get if you become disabled right now, if you retired, if you died, what your kids would get. You have access to that by setting up that free account. So if you already have an account, which millions of us do, you got an email on July 3rd, 2025 from the Social Security Administration. And if you were like me, you're like, what? Like, I'm looking to see, is this scam? Is this spam? No, it was from the government, from the Social Security Administration. Now, I think it violated a bunch of laws, but because what it said was, hey, the new bill was passed by the president eliminating taxes on Social Security. No, the new bill does not eliminate taxes on Social Security. The email, I'm not going to say what I want to say here. The email was not good. The bill did not eliminate taxes on Social Security. The bill could not do that because this was a special bill. You can go read all the details, but they could not change Social Security law in this bill. It was not an available option. So they used the option that they had, which was to increase the available deduction for certain retirees. Now, I take issue with this email, and a lot of other people did too, because it says no taxes on Social Security for most people. Okay, only about 50% of people pay taxes on their Social Security. If Social Security is your only source of income, you do not pay taxes on it. But if my only source of income is Social Security and I am married, we file our taxes jointly, and my spouse has a job, then my Social Security, either half of it or 85% of it, will be included in our joint adjusted gross income that we pay taxes on. And so, like I said, about 50% of people currently pay taxes on their Social Security. So the bill said no tax on Social Security, which is misleading because the new bill says that you get an increased deduction. You get $6,000 deduction, which basically just takes $6,000 off of what would be your taxable income, but only for people that are 65 or older. Now, you can start your Social Security way back here. You could be disabled and on Social Security in your 30s, 40s, 50s. You could take your Social Security retirement as early as age 62. And about 30% of people do. So a lot of Social Security retirees are over here at age 62, 63, 64, and they're looking at this email like I am going, there's nothing in there for me. There's no pork for me because I'm too young. Well, you can say, well, if you live long enough, you'll get it. Maybe, because the bill as it's written says that this increase in deduction, the $6,000, is for tax year 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028. So it automatically expires. Now, when they do things like this with an expiration, they can say, well, we could renew it. Well, if the Republicans are still in power, they could renew it if they have enough. You know, you got to have enough votes to get it done, and that just because they're in power doesn't mean they can necessarily get it done. But if they're not in power, and typically we see the pendulum switch back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans. If the Democrats are in power, then they most likely will just let it expire. So if you're only 62 and you're thinking, oh great, this is going to happen, well, 3 years from now it's on the verge of expiring. Okay, so it's for people 65 and older that make a single filer that make under $75,000. Again, most retirees fall into that group and they're going to benefit from this $6,000 deduction for a couple years. If you're a couple and you make over $150,000, then it phases out, a single phases out at 75. So it's not all people on Social Security. For, a lot of them. Again, if you're on disability and you're a lot younger, then no, you're never going to feel the benefit of this. So the email, some are calling it propaganda. I'm trying not to, flame the flames of political discord here, but I would like to see direct communication from the Social Security Administration be more politically unbiased and be more fact-based. Wouldn't we all? We never know what news to trust. So I've had so many people in the comments saying, yay, Social Security is not taxed. They've also told me, oh, I'm not eligible for Social Security spousal benefits anymore. And I saw that they changed the age of full retirement. So there's so much disinformation out there from so many different sites constantly that I feel for anybody on the cusp of retirement trying to figure out what's trustworthy. And you would think that something from the actual Social Security Administration would be 100% trustworthy. So this was a departure from what we are used to, and who knows what we're going to be seeing in the future. Say you kind of have the advantage that you do have supercomputer access. And as soon as I got that email, right away, I'm Googling, I'm researching, I'm going to ChatGPT and Grok, and I'm like, what? And then everything confirmed what I had already thought, is that it was not true. But most people are like, oh, that's true. So you got to take everything from whatever source you get it, including me, with a grain of salt. But like I said, we all have access to a lot of information, but we have to do the work, which is not just listen to the first person that tells us something, but do our own research and confirm and hopefully try to get to the actual truth. So if you just started drawing Social Security for the first time and you're like, what do you even mean Social Security is taxed? Don't count yourself as a minority. Most people feel the same way. They're like, wasn't I already taxed on that money? Yeah, that's another whole subject. But I go into how Social Security is taxed because, like I said, a lot of people in my scenario here will still have to be doing those computations and will still have their Social Security tax, especially if you're a high income retiree, single making over $75,000 or a couple making over $150,000. I go into how you calculate taxes for Social Security. They have not changed these factors since they started taxing Social Security back in 1983. They look at something called your provisional income or your combined income. They make it even better because they always call it a little bit something different. But they take half your Social Security, okay? So half your Social Security, and then they add all your other sources of income. Everything. So if you're married and your spouse is still working, yeah, then your Social Security is going to be subject to income taxes. So you still have to do this math before you can take the deduction if you're eligible for the $6,000 deduction. So let's say I'm on Social Security and I make $20,000 a year. Okay, take half my Social Security, $10,000. I add it to my spouse's income. My spouse makes $80,000 a year. So now we're at $90,000 a year. So we far exceed the threshold, which means 85% of my Social Security will be subject to income taxes. So I made $20,000. What is 85%? $17,000 gets added to my husband's $80,000. That's our adjusted gross income. And then I'm going to take off $6,000 because as a couple, we make under $150,000. I know a lot of you don't want to pay an accountant to do this, so I explain it in more simplified terms. Again, in my book, I go into how you do all what I just did. And then, of course, I have a QR code at the beginning of the book that will explain the deduction. So any of the changes to Medicare and Social Security, you just go to my QR code. The book will stay alive, vibrant, and up to date, hopefully forever. So you're not going to feel like, well, I'm going to buy it because they change this stuff all the time. The majority of it will not change over the next 9-10 years. The vast majority of it will be exactly the same, but they do make changes each and every year. This was a good change, not as good as we had hoped for. We had hoped for something more simple. We're just like, don't tax our Social Security. Don't make me go through all this, figuring this out. Don't make me hire an accountant to figure it out. Just remove it. Again, that's not what happened. This is where we are. Something's better than nothing. Hope you learned something. If you have questions, ask me in the comments. Please give me a follow if you want to learn more of this very exciting stuff about retirement, Medicare, Social Security, estate planning. I'm here to help you get ready. If you like this video, you might really like this video. Check it out. And we'd appreciate if you subscribe to our channel so you never miss a great video. We put out one every week. Check in the description below this video for a link to our cheat sheet on Social Security and Medicare. And you can also give us a comment if you have a specific question. Always feel free to call us or email us at the Medicare Family.